Hey everybody, welcome to Neurodivergent Gaming. I'm your host, Tailgate Coolie Cat Meow, and you know what we got going on over here? High scores and low dopamine. Let's go! Okay, let's do some more nonograms. Here we have a 10 by 10, and I'm looking for big numbers. The first thing I see is this 6 here can only fit right here. It won't fit in that space of 2, so we got to do that. And then that gives us an edge. Now I'm going to start working with that edge. From the bottom we have 1 as the last number, 1 as the last number, 1 as the last number. Then we have 3 as the last number. We know it starts over here. And 3 and 4. And we'll put X's in front of that. In this column I can see 3 and 6. That only fits one way on a 10 row column. So that has to fill in like that. And then the 7, it can't go down. We know it has to go up. And that gives us some more edge pieces. We know where this 8 starts. So we'll count it over to 8. And this next number, the last one, is a 3 for that row. And then a 2. So we can put X's behind those. And we have another edge across the top. This top number is a 1. This top number is a 2 and a 3 and a 7. And this one with the 3 has a 6 after that, so we know it has to be filled in like that. Here we have a 3. We can see it can't go to the right, so it has to go left. The same with the row above it. And on this row, we have a 1 and then a 4 and then a 1. Well, we know that this has to be part of that 1, and that just leaves 4 spaces left. So there is that row finished. And then this one has a 2 that we're still needing, and there's 2 spaces left. Now we can look at this column, a 1 and 2, then a 3. There's a 1 and there's 2, so we know nothing's going there. And then the one next to it, a 2 and then a 2. We have a 2 and then a 2. And that helps us with this 4. We know it can't go right, so it's got to go here. And this column has 6 in it. There's only one way that fits. And then these remaining columns have 2, and these remaining rows have 2, and these 2 columns have 3. So all of this has to be filled in. And that looks like a castle or something. And we'll keep going. All right, we got another 10 by 10, and I see the number 10, and then I see the number 8, so I know there's going to be overlap. Here we have 3, so because we have 3 in these 2 rows, we know it can only reach to either here or here, and it won't be able to reach all the way out here. And the row right above that, our first number is 3. We have 2 pieces together here, so this has to be part of our 3 because it can't be part of our 1. And if it's part of our 3, then it can only reach out here, and it won't be able to reach those 3. In this row, we just have 1s, so we're going to block off this 1. And in the row above that, we have one number that's a 3. So if it includes this piece, it can only reach to here or here. So we'll mark out where it is too far for that 3 to reach. And we'll come down here to the bottom. That 6 is going to have overlap. If you count it from the right, it ends there. And if you count it from the left, it ends here. And that's the overlap. And that gives us a bottom, an edge piece there. So we know that's where that 8 for sure starts. And we got that column finished, which tells us that our 3 starts here and goes to the right. And then our first number in this column, since we have another edge, is 1. So we can mark that out. Let's see what I'm seeing now. Okay, on this row, we have the number 4 as our first number, and we can't fit 1, 2, 3, 4 space before we get to these 2 filled in blocks. So that means these 2 filled in blocks have to be part of our first number. And if that's part of our first number, it can only reach to here. It can't be in those spaces. And then if we look at this column, we have to have a 2 and we have a space of 1 here. That's not going to fit, so we can mark it out. And for this column here, we have a 3 and then a 1. We can't fit 1, 2, 3, space 1 above those x's. And down here below the x's, we can't fit 1, space 1, 2, 3. Therefore, we know the 1 has to come down here and the 3 has to come up here. And that'll give us some overlap for the 3. Switch back to my filled in 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. And that gives us this overlap here. Now on this row, we know where that first number starts. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll put an X after it. And then that next number is a 2, so we'll have a little bit of an overlap. If we count from this side, it goes to here, and if we count from this side, it goes to here. There's our overlap for that number 2. We can also look at this row above it where we have a 3 and then a 2. If we connect these two pieces, then that would give us 4, and we don't have a number that high. So we need to put a space between those pieces, and this is part of our second number, this is part of our first number. That second number is 2, so it's already done. That first number is 3, it has to come that way, so now that row is complete. And then that will let us complete this column because we know where that 2 goes. For this column, we can see the first number is a 2, and it won't fit in this space of 1. So this has to be the start of our first number, and we know it comes down to 2, and then we will put an X to mark it off. Now there's 4 spaces left, and our number is 3 that we have to get here. Therefore, there's going to be some overlap right there. I'm going to go ahead and put an X here because we know that 2 won't fit. Coming over to this column, our first number is a 3. It's not going to fit in this space, which tells us that this is the start of our first number. So 1, 2, 3. And then we won't have overlap for the 1, so we can't do anything about that now. But we will have on this row just one number, so let's connect those. And on this row, we have a 3 and then a 1. We can see that this is the start of our 3, so that finishes that row. And we can come down here, and since we have some things marked off, we know that this is going to go a little further that way. And this is a 5, so if it started here, it would reach 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And because it includes those 4, it can only reach to here. It won't reach those last 2 spaces. And then the bottom number is a 6, so we can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that has to be part of it. And it could reach all the way to the end, so we don't know where that's going to go yet. Back to this column, our first number is a 3, and you can see we have a group of 2 there, so we've almost got it. We'll put one more, and that'll make a 3. In this column, we have a 3 and a 1. We've got that 3, and there's only one space for the 1. In this column, we have 2 1s, and there's only 2 spaces available, so that must be those. This row has 3. We see 1, 2, and there's the third. And then lastly, this row has 5, and that column has 1, so we know that finishes the puzzle. And that looks like sticks. A dried up tree. Now we can continue. And we'll see what we get next. We have a 10 by 10. We see a 10, so let's do that first. And we'll look here on this row. That number is a 4. It won't fit here, so we'll mark it out. It won't fit there, so we'll mark it out. It has to fit here. We say 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. That'll be our overlap. For this one, our biggest number we have is a 5, and there's only one space that 5 can fit, so it has to be our 5 is there. And then down here on the bottom 2, we've only got one number, so we can fill that in. We know that's all going to be together. And this bottom number is a 7, and there's only one space 7 can fit. And I think this makes 6. For only one space that 6 can fit. This row we have a number 2. It can't go to the right, so it has to go left. We'll pull it out to 2 spaces. And then in this column, if we start from the bottom, we have a 2 and then a 4. There's our 2. Our 4 has to start here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that finishes that column. Now we can see where these 2's belong on these rows. They have to start here, so 1, 2, and 1, 2. And then we'll put an X below this because the first number in this column is a 2. And we've got 2. And then the only number left in that column is a 1, and we've only got one space. So we'll put it there. And it's the same situation with this column. We only have one left that goes above that 5, and there's only one space for it. And same here for this column. We already have that 2, and there's the 1. That filled in this row, which tells us that the 1 remaining for this column goes here. And then this has to be a group of 5. We know where it starts, so 3, 4, 5. And that's a man. Sandboarding. We'll keep going. And we have another 10 by 10. We don't have any X's filled in for us now, but we have some big numbers. So we know that 9 is going to create an overlap like this, and that 8 next to it will create an overlap like this. This 8 here will create an overlap as well. It goes out to there. And this 5, we know that this has to be part of it, so it could start as far back as here, and it would go to there if it does. And this, these two together have to be part of that 7. It could start as far back as here, and it would go to there if it does. So that's going to be overlap. And the same with the 6 would reach to there. Then we have 2, and that's the biggest number we have in this row and that row. So we can mark X's on both of those rows, on both sides of those 2. And because 2 is the first number, we know nothing comes in front of it. So we can mark those 2 out as well. And then we can look at this next row up here. It's a 6. There's only one number. It could go all the way out to there, so we'll mark it like that. And because it includes these 4, it can only reach this far. It won't be able to reach those 2. And then that 2 in this column isn't going to fit in that one space, so we'll go ahead and mark it as well. And then we have the same thing here with this column. Our number is a 3. It's not going to fit in that space of 2, so we'll mark that X. And then we can see this is where that group of 6 starts. We can't go left because of that X, so we'll take it right. In this column, we can do a little bit of work. We have a 2, 2, and 1. This has to be our first 2, and this has to be our second 2, and this has to be our 1. Because if this were connected, then that would be 3, and we can't have that. So we know that's our 1, and we know right where that 2 starts, and we can put an X above it. We don't know where the rest of that 2 goes, so we're just going to leave it like that for now. In this row here, the highest number on this row is a 1, so let's mark that off so that it doesn't get any bigger, and that tells us where our 8 fits in this column because it can't go down. We can also see this row, that first number is a 5, and it can't move any further to the right, so we'll pull it left to make 5, and then that tells us this is where our 3 and our 2 are going to be. If the 2 includes this square, then it can only reach up to where the star is, and it can only reach down to there, so we know it won't reach these pieces. And with the 3, it won't fit down here in the bottom anyway, so we'll go ahead and mark that out. We can see it's going to include this square, so it could reach all the way up to here. So let's look for overlap. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. There's our overlap. For this row, our number is a 6, and it has to include these 5. If it does, it can only reach to here, so we can mark those 2 out. It won't reach that far. And this row, our number is a 1, so we need to mark this off. That way it doesn't get any bigger than that. And that tells us where our 9 starts, so we can bring this one down here to finish that column. Here on this column, our first number is a 4 and our second number is a 3. We're going to have some overlap there because if we connect all of these, that's obviously bigger than 4. So this has to be part of our 4 and this has to be part of our 3. If our 4 starts here, it would reach to 1, 2, 3, 4. So that would be where our overlap is. And we can't really do anything about that 3 because it could go either way. I don't see any way that we can narrow down that overlap. But we do have now in this column, we can tell where that top 2 fits, which finishes that row. So now we know that's the start of our 4, and it comes all the way down to here. We'll put an X after it. You see that finishes our row of 6 there, and it also blocks off our group of 7. It can't go any further to the right, so that has to be our group of 7. We can now see that 2 starts here for this column, and that 3 starts here. So that 3 will come all the way down there, which means the 8 starts here and goes there. Now we can look at our column here with the group of 3. And the highest up it can start is here, so that's 1, 2, 3. And then from the bottom, 1, 2, 3. This is the overlap. For this row, we'd have a 7 and a 1. There's our 7. There's only one space the 1 can fit, and that tells us where this 2 belongs in this column. And now we can see in this column that the start of our 3 is here, so we'll bring it down and fill in that last space, which takes care of that row, and that looks like a kiwi. Nope, it's a hat. That looks like a kiwi because it has legs. Kiwi is like a little brown bird. It's also fruit. I like kiwi the fruit. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you feel like it. That's the hit. Catch you next time. Bye.